The Galactic Council had been watching the stars for a very long time. They had found more than 12,000 different species across the universe. Some were friendly, some were dangerous, and some were so deadly that the Council created special rules just to deal with them. Every new species got a color. Green meant safe and peaceful. Yellow meant be careful. Orange meant stay away unless necessary. And red meant the worst thing possible. Red meant a species was so dangerous that no one should ever contact them. In 3,000 years, the Council had only used category red twice. They were about to use it a third time. The survey ship called Eternal Harmony was flying through an unexplored part of space when it picked up strange signals. The signals were rough and messy, full of noise and chaos. They came from a small yellow star with 8 planets around it. The third planet was blue and green, covered in water and land. Ambassador Velas of the Orani Federation was sent to investigate. The Orani were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. They had been exploring space for 10,000 years. Velas had seen many strange things in his long career. He thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. The beings on the third planet called themselves humans. They had soft skin, hair on their heads, and 2 eyes that came in many colors. They walked on 2 legs and used 2 arms with 5 fingers each. At first glance, they seemed weak and ordinary. Captain Park Jin-ho was the first human to meet the aliens. He commanded the space station called Horizon, which floated above Earth like a silver ring. Jin-ho was 43 years old. He had fought in 3 wars. His face carried scars from battles, but his smile was warm and friendly. "Welcome to our home," Jin-ho said to Ambassador Velas. "We have waited a long time to meet others like us." Velas felt something strange when he looked at the human captain. The man's eyes held no fear. Most new species trembled when they met the Council for the first time. But this human stood tall and calm, like he was greeting an old friend. Lieutenant Kim Yuna stood beside her captain. She was younger, with sharp eyes and a serious face. She recorded everything the aliens did. She watched them like a hunter watches prey. For 3 days, the Orani delegation stayed on Horizon. They observed the humans. They studied their behavior. And with each passing hour, Ambassador Velas grew more afraid. The humans ate poison for pleasure. They drank something called coffee that would kill most species. They consumed alcohol, a chemical that damaged their own brains, and they laughed while doing it. They ate plants that burned their mouths and made them sweat, and they called it delicious. But their food was not the worst part. Velas watched humans exercise in their training rooms. They lifted heavy weights until their muscles tore apart. Then they rested, and their muscles grew back stronger than before. They ran until they collapsed, then woke up and ran again. They broke their own bodies on purpose, just to become more powerful. One human soldier showed Velas a scar on his chest. "I was shot here," the soldier said proudly. "The bullet went through my lung. I kept fighting for 10 more minutes before I passed out." Velas felt sick. No species in the galaxy could survive such wounds. No species would want to. The Orani scientists examined human history. They learned that Earth was what the Council called a death world. The temperature changed wildly between seasons. Massive storms destroyed entire cities. The ground itself would shake and split open. Floods and fires swept across the land. Predators hunted humans for millions of years, and somehow humans had survived all of it. "They should be extinct," one scientist whispered. "Nothing survives a death world." But the humans did more than survive. They conquered their planet. They tamed fire. They built cities. They flew through the sky and walked on their own moon. They looked at the stars not with fear, but with hunger. They wanted more. On the last night of the visit, Captain Jin-ho invited Ambassador Velas to dinner. They sat together in a small room with a window showing the stars. "Your people seem nervous around us," Jinho said. "Why?" Veles did not know how to answer. How could he explain that everything about humans terrified him? Their strength, their endurance, their refusal to die. But the worst thing was something else entirely. During his stay, Veles had seen a human woman run into a burning building to save a child she did not know. He had watched soldiers volunteer for dangerous missions with smiles on their faces. He had learned that humans would die for strangers, for ideas, for things they called honor and love. This made no logical sense. Self-preservation was the first law of nature. Every species protected itself above all else. But humans threw away their lives for others without hesitation. "You are unusual," Veles finally said. Jinho laughed. It was a warm sound, full of life. "I suppose we are." When Ambassador Veles returned to the council, he spent 3 days writing his report. He chose his words carefully. He checked every fact twice. And when he finished, he sent the message that would change the galaxy forever. Species 7431, self-designated humans. Origin, Sol System, 3rd planet. Classification, Category Red. Threat level, Maximum. Recommendation, Immediate quarantine. No contact. No trade. No communication. These beings are unpredictable, resilient, and possess psychological traits that defy all known models. They do not fear death. They form irrational bonds and sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts. They look at the universe and see not danger, but opportunity. Do not engage. Contain and observe only. The council voted unanimously. Earth would be surrounded. Humanity would be trapped in their own solar system. The galaxy would be protected from the red species. They thought they were building a cage. They did not understand that they were making an enemy. 50 years passed like a slow poison dot. The Galactic Council built a wall of ships around the Sol system. Hundreds of warships floated in the darkness, their weapons pointed at Earth. No human vessel could leave. No alien vessel could enter. The blockade was perfect and complete. The Council expected humans to wither. They expected them to fight among themselves, to collapse into chaos, to fade away like so many other trapped species had done before. They were wrong about everything. Admiral Li Taiho stood on the bridge of the battleship, Thunder's voice, and looked at the stars. He was 67 years old now. His hair had turned gray, and lines covered his face. But his eyes still burned with fire. They were the eyes of a man who refused to surrender. 50 years, he said quietly. They kept us in a cage for 50 years. Behind him stood the United Earth Assembly, the government that now spoke for all of humanity. 15 billion people lived in the Sol system now. They had spread to Mars, to the moons of Jupiter, to stations floating in the cold darkness. They had grown stronger, not weaker. "Admiral," said a young officer named Shin Do-hyun, "the Council Patrol is changing shifts. There is a gap in their coverage for exactly 4 minutes. Taiho smiled. It was not a warm smile. 4 minutes is enough. For 50 years, humanity had been watching and learning. They captured pieces of alien technology that drifted near the blockade. They studied alien communications that leaked through the barrier. They reverse-engineered everything they found. Dr. Choi Hana led the science division that made the impossible possible. She was small and thin, with glasses that were always sliding down her nose. But her mind was sharper than any blade. "The Council thinks they are advanced," she told Admiral Taiho one evening. "They stopped improving 3,000 years ago. They became comfortable. They became lazy. We have not been comfortable for a single day of our existence." Hana had built humanity's first faster-than-light engine using stolen alien designs and human creativity. The aliens had needed centuries to create such technology. Hannah did it in 12 years. She had also discovered something else. Something that changed how humans understood their enemy. They are afraid of us, Hannah explained to the assembly. But not because of our bodies. They are afraid of our minds. She showed them translations of alien psychological studies. The council had examined human behavior and found it terrifying. Humans had concepts that did not exist in alien languages. Hope, the belief that things would get better, even when all evidence said otherwise. Sacrifice, the willingness to die for something greater than oneself. Revenge, the need to punish those who caused harm, even at great personal cost. Spite, the desire to keep fighting just to prove an enemy wrong. They think we are mentally ill, Hannah said. They believe that any species with these traits must be insane. They cannot understand why we do not simply accept our situation and surrender. Admiral Taiho laughed. It was a hard sound, like stones grinding together. Then we will teach them. The years of preparation continued. Humanity built warships in secret. They trained soldiers in hidden bases. They created weapons that the Council could not imagine. And they waited for the right moment. That moment came on a cold morning in Earth's winter. A Council patrol ship detected a small human transport vessel near the edge of the blockade. The transport was carrying families to a new colony on Europa. There were 200 people aboard, including 47 children. The patrol commander sent a warning. The transport did not stop. Perhaps its radio was broken. Perhaps the pilot did not hear. Perhaps he thought the aliens would show mercy. The patrol ship opened fire. The transport exploded in a ball of flame. 200 humans died in an instant. 47 of them were children who would never grow up. Admiral Taiho received the news in silence. He stood completely still for a long moment. Then he walked to the communication center and broadcast a message on all frequencies. Every human in the Sol system heard it. Every alien ship in the blockade heard it. This is Admiral Lee Taiho of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Today, you murdered our children. You killed innocents who pose no threat to anyone. For 50 years, we have accepted your cage. For 50 years, we have been patient. That patience ends now. His voice grew colder, harder. You called us Category Red. You said we were too dangerous to live among you. You were right. We are dangerous. And you have just learned why. He paused. You have drawn first blood. You will regret it for the rest of your very short lives. Across the Sol system, humanity mobilized. Ships launched from hidden bases. Soldiers reported to their stations. Scientists activated weapons that had been waiting in the darkness for decades. Dr. Hannah stood beside Admiral Taiho as the fleet gathered. She looked at the old warrior's face and saw something she had never seen before. Peace. You have been waiting for this, she said. Every day for 50 years, Taiho replied. They wanted to contain us. They wanted to make us small. But they forgot one thing. What is that? The Admiral turned to face her. His eyes were not angry. They were calm and certain, like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. You cannot cage a species that learned to fly by jumping off cliffs. You cannot break a species that survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. You cannot defeat a species that sees death not as an ending, but as a price worth paying. He looked back at the stars, at the alien ships that had kept his people trapped for half a century. They made us their enemy. Now they will learn what that means. The first human warship crossed the blockade line at exactly midnight, Earth time. It was a small ship, barely larger than the alien patrol vessels. But it moved faster than anything the Council had ever seen. And it was only the beginning. The war had started. Humanity was coming. The Galactic Council had not fought a real war in 3,000 years. They had forgotten what war meant. They had forgotten the blood and the fire and the screaming. They had forgotten what it felt like to face an enemy that would not stop. Humanity had never forgotten. Commander Yoon Minho was 34 years old when he led the first attack. He had black hair cut short and a face that rarely smiled. His father had died on the transport that the Council destroyed. His mother had died of grief 1 week later. Minho had nothing left except a war. His target was the Varus system, where the Council kept their largest shipyard. Thousands of warships were built there every year. If humanity could destroy it, the Council would be crippled. Minho had 47 ships. The Council had 300 guarding the shipyard. "Commander," said his navigation officer, a young woman named Han Somi, "we are outnumbered 6-1. Minho nodded. "I can count. Do you have a plan?" "Yes." He looked at his crew. They were young and old, men and women, all of them volunteers. All of them knew they might not survive. None of them looked afraid. "We are going to win." The Battle of Varus began at dawn, local time. The Council fleet moved into formation, confident in their numbers. They had won every battle for 3,000 years. They saw no reason why this one would be different, thought. It was different. Human ships did not fight like any enemy the Council had faced before. They attacked from impossible angles. They flew directly into enemy formations, causing chaos and confusion. They targeted command ships first, cutting off communication and leadership. And when their ships were damaged beyond repair, they did something that terrified the aliens more than anything else. They kept fighting. A human cruiser called the Iron Dawn took 17 direct hits in the first hour. Its engines were dead. Its weapons were failing. Any Council ship would have surrendered. The Iron Dawn aimed itself at the largest enemy battleship and accelerated. The impact destroyed both vessels. The Iron Dawn's crew sent one final message before the collision. "Tell our families we love them." Across the battlefield, human pilots ejected from dying ships. They floated in the vacuum of space, carrying nothing but small explosive charges and magnetic boots. They landed on enemy hulls and planted bombs with their bare hands. Many of them died in the explosions they caused. None of them hesitated. Commander Minho watched his fleet shrink. 20 ships gone, 30, 35, but the Council was losing faster. Their neat formations had collapsed into chaos. Their commanders did not know how to fight an enemy that welcomed death. After 18 hours, the battle ended. Minho had lost 31 ships. The Council had lost everything. The shipyard burned like a second sun. 300 alien warships drifted as wreckage. And the survivors broadcast what they had seen to the rest of the galaxy. The humans were monsters. The humans were demons. The humans did not know how to surrender. On the ground, the war was even more brutal. Sergeant Baek So-jin was a small woman with short hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had joined the military at 18 because she wanted to protect people. Now she was 29, and she had killed more enemies than she could count. Her unit was sent to Varus Prime, the planet below the shipyard. The Council had a military base there with supplies and weapons. Humanity needed that base. Sujin and her 40 soldiers landed in the darkness. They moved through alien forests filled with strange sounds and stranger creatures. They reached their target at midnight, a bridge. A single bridge that crossed a massive river. The Council needed that bridge to move their troops. If humanity controlled it, the enemy would be trapped. "Hold this bridge," Sujin's commander ordered through the radio. "Reinforcements will arrive in 3 days." 3 days. Against an army. The first attack came at dawn. 200 alien soldiers charged across the open ground. Sujin's unit cut them down with careful, precise fire. The aliens retreated. They came back with 500, then 1,000, then 2,000. By the second day, Sujin had lost half her soldiers. Ammunition was running low. 3 of her people were badly wounded and could not fight. The smart thing would be to retreat. Sujin did not retreat. They gave us this bridge, she told her remaining soldiers. We will hold it or we will die on it. There is no other choice. On the third day, the council sent their elite forces. Tall warriors in heavy armor, carrying weapons that could cut through steel. There were hundreds of them, and Sujin had only 19 soldiers left. The battle lasted 6 hours. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found Sujin standing in the middle of the bridge, surrounded by alien bodies. She had been shot 11 times. Her left arm was broken. She had lost 2 fingers on her right hand. She was still firing her weapon. Behind her stood 4 other survivors. 4 soldiers out of 40. They had held the bridge for 3 days against an army. Sergeant Beak, the reinforcement commander said. You can stop now. Sujin looked at him with empty eyes. Then she smiled. It was a terrible smile. The smile of someone who had walked through hell and come out the other side. We never stopped, she said. We never will. Back in the council chambers, the Supreme Chancellor addressed the assembly. His hands trembled. His voice shook. For the first time in his long life, he knew what fear truly felt like. We have made a terrible mistake, he said. These creatures do not fight to win. They fight because fighting is who they are. They do not fear death. They do not know surrender. They look at impossible odds and see a challenge. He paused. The chamber was silent. We are not fighting an enemy. We are fighting a force of nature. And I do not know how to stop them. No one had an answer. The war continued. 3 years of war had broken something in the galaxy. The Council's coalition was falling apart. Species that had supported the blockade now questioned their leaders. Some had lost too many soldiers. Others had seen their economies collapse without trade. And a few had discovered something that changed everything. Humans were not the monsters they had been told about on a prison station in the outer systems. A young Orani guard named Pellis watched the human captives with confusion. He had expected beasts, savage creatures that killed without reason. Instead, he found something different. The humans shared their food with each other, even when they were starving. They told jokes and laughed, even in the darkness of their cells. When one prisoner fell sick, the others gave up their blankets to keep him warm. When a guard fell and hurt himself, a human doctor offered to help. Why would you help me? Pellis asked. I am your enemy. The human doctor, an older man named Kwon Ji-hoon, smiled gently. You are not my enemy. You are a person who fell down. I am a doctor. Helping people is what I do. Pellis did not understand. He could not understand. But he began to wonder if the council had been wrong about these strange creatures. Stories like this spread across the galaxy. Soldiers who had expected demons found people instead. Prisoners who had expected torture found kindness. The narrative was changing. Ambassador Song Ji-woo was chosen to represent humanity in the first peace talks. She was only 30 years old, young by any standard. She had dark hair that fell past her shoulders and a soft voice that made people lean closer to listen. Some in the human government thought she was too young, too gentle for such an important mission. Admiral Taiha disagreed. We have shown them our strength, he said. Now we must show them our heart. Ji-woo is perfect. The neutral station called Crossroads floated in empty space, far from any planet or star. Representatives from 18 species gathered in a large chamber, watching as the human ambassador walked through the door. She was alone and unarmed, carrying nothing but a small bag. We thank you for agreeing to meet, Ji-woo said. Her voice was calm. We know this was not an easy decision. The Orani representative, a descendant of Ambassador Velis, spoke first. His voice was harsh and suspicious. Why should we trust anything you say? Your species was classified as Category Red for good reason. You are dangerous. Yes, Jiwoo agreed simply. We are dangerous. The chamber went silent. No one had expected her to admit it. We are dangerous, she continued. We survive things that would kill other species. We fight when logic says we should surrender. We hope when hope makes no sense. These traits frightened you, and I understand why. She took a step forward. But you made a mistake. You looked at our strength and saw a threat. You did not look at what we use that strength for. From her bag, she pulled a small data chip and placed it on the table. This contains the coordinates of 12 Council vessels we captured during the war. Their crews are still alive. All of them. We fed them. We treated their wounds. We are returning them to you now with no conditions. The Orani representative stared at her. Why? You could demand anything for those prisoners. You could end the war tomorrow if you used them as leverage. Jiwoo shook her head. We do not want to win through cruelty. We want to show you who we really are. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. You imprisoned us because we survive, because we adapt, because we refuse to give up. But those same traits are why we are offering peace instead of revenge. We could burn your worlds. We could destroy your fleets. We have the power to do terrible things. But we choose not to. Her voice grew stronger. That is what makes us human. Not our strength. Our choices. We choose hope over despair. We choose mercy over hatred. We choose to build rather than destroy. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the Orani representative reached for the data chip. We will consider your words, he said quietly. Thought it was not peace. But it was a beginning. Meanwhile, the war still raged. General Oh Seojin led the final campaign against the Council's military headquarters. He was an old soldier, gray and tired, carrying the weight of 3 years of fighting. His forces had taken heavy losses, but they kept moving forward. On the night before the final attack, Seojin gathered his soldiers in a large hall. Thousands of men and women stood before him, their faces lit by floating lights. Tomorrow, we end this war, he said. Tomorrow, we break the last wall they have built against us. He paused and looked at his soldiers. So many young faces. So many who would not survive to see peace. They called us Category Red, Seojin continued. They said we were a menace, a plague, a species too dangerous to exist among them. And maybe they were right. A few soldiers laughed grimly. We are dangerous, Seojin said. We are terrifying. We are everything they feared. But we are also something they never expected. His voice rose. We are survivors. We are protectors. We are the species that walked through fire and came out stronger. We are the species that will not kneel. He raised his fist. Tomorrow, we show them what humanity truly means. Not death, not destruction, but hope. Hope for a galaxy where no species is caged for being different. Hope for a future where we stand together, not apart. The soldiers cheered. It was a sound like thunder, rolling through the hall and shaking the walls. The next morning, the attack began. Human forces moved through the Council's defenses like water through cracks in a dam. 6 hours later, the headquarters fell. The Council's military command surrendered. General Seojin walked through the captured base, stepping over debris and past surrendering aliens. He found the Council's top military commander hiding in a bunker, surrounded by guards who had thrown down their weapons. The alien looked at him with fear in his large eyes. What will you do with us? Seojin studied him for a long moment. Then he reached down and offered his hand. We are going to build a better galaxy, he said. And you are going to help us. The war was over. The real work was about to begin. The Treaty of Seoul was signed on a spring morning, Earth time. The human station Unity floated above Earth like a silver crown, its windows reflecting the blue planet below. Inside the Great Hall, representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered to witness history. Flags and symbols from 100 worlds hung from the walls. Cameras broadcast the moment to trillions of beings across the stars. Admiral Lee Tai-ho walked slowly to the signing table. He was 70 years old now, his body worn by decades of struggle. His hair was completely white. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes were still sharp, still burning with the same fire that had carried humanity through the darkness. Across the table sat the remaining council leaders. Their pride was gone. Their armies were broken. But they were alive because humanity had chosen mercy over revenge. We do not seek to rule over you, Admiral Tai-ho said. His voice was old, but strong. We do not want your worlds or your wealth. We fought this war because you gave us no choice. Now that the fighting is done, we offer you something better. He pushed a document across the table. It was simple paper, marked with human words translated into 100 languages. Partnership, Tai-ho continued. Equality. A place at the table, not beneath it. The stars are vast enough for all of us. There is no need for cages or walls or fear. The Council's Supreme Chancellor picked up the document with trembling hands. He read the terms slowly. Full integration of humanity into galactic society. Reparations for the 50 years of blockade. A complete restructuring of the species classification system. The abolishment of Category Red forever. This is generous, the Chancellor said quietly. Too generous. We imprisoned your people. We killed your children. Why do you not demand more? Tai-ho was silent for a moment. Then he smiled, and for the first time in many years, it was a genuine smile. Because hatred is a poison that kills the one who holds it. We could spend 1,000 years punishing you for what you did. We could burn your worlds and enslave your people and call it justice. But what would that make us? He looked around the room at all the alien faces watching him. We are human. We build. We protect. We forgive. Not because you deserve it, but because we choose to. That is our strength. That is who we are. The Chancellor signed the treaty. One by one, the other council leaders added their signatures. When it was done, Admiral Tai-ho added his name at the bottom. The war was officially over. The hall erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens embraced. Some cried. After 3 years of death and destruction, there was finally peace. Dr. Choi Hana was appointed as humanity's first galactic ambassador. She had spent her whole life studying aliens, trying to understand them. Now she would spend the rest of her life helping them understand humanity. Her first speech to the newly formed Interstellar Assembly was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. She stood at a podium made from metal salvaged from ships on both sides of the war, a symbol of destruction transformed into a symbol of unity. You feared us, Hana said. I understand. We are different from you in ways that must seem frightening. We do not give up when we should. We love too fiercely. We fight too hard. We believe in impossible things. She paused and adjusted her glasses. The same nervous habits she had carried since childhood. But those same traits that terrified you are why we are standing here today, offering peace instead of asking for surrender. We could have crushed you. We chose not to. We could have demanded everything. We asked only for fairness. Her voice grew softer. We are not your enemies. We never were. We are simply human. And now, we want to be your friends. In the years that followed, the galaxy transformed. Humanity became the mediators of disputes, the peacekeepers of troubled regions, the protectors of weaker species. The same strength that had once terrified the Council now kept the galaxy safe. Commander Yoon Minho, the man who had led the first attack, retired from military service. He could have had any position he wanted. Governments offered him wealth and power. He refused everything. Instead, he became a teacher. The first interspecies academy opened on a station that floated between Earth and Mars. Students from every species came to learn together. And in a small classroom on the third floor, Commander Minho taught history. What was the most important battle of the war? A young Irani student asked one day. Minho thought about it. He remembered the fire and the blood and the friends he had lost. He remembered the Iron Dawn and its final charge. He remembered Sergeant Beak standing on that bridge, broken but undefeated. None of them, he finally said, thought the students looked confused. The most important moment was not a battle, Minho explained. It was Ambassador Song walking into that peace conference, alone and unarmed. It was Dr. Kwan helping an enemy guard who had fallen. It was Admiral Taiho offering his hand instead of his sword. He looked at his students, human and alien, sitting side by side. War shows what we can destroy. Peace shows what we can build. Never forget the difference. The century passed like a river flowing toward the sea. A young Irani historian named Tellis was researching ancient records when he found a file buried deep in the archives. It was the original report that had classified humanity as Category Red, written by his own ancestor, Ambassador Velis, over 150 years ago. Tellis read the old words carefully. He saw the fear between the lines. He understood why his ancestor had been so afraid of these strange creatures from the death world, and he smiled. He opened a new document and began to write. Addendum to Species Classification. 7431. Author: Tellis of the Irani Historical Institute. Date: 150 years after the Treaty of Seoul. He paused, thinking carefully about what he wanted to say. Ambassador Velis was correct in his original assessment. Humans are dangerous. They are unpredictable. They defy logic and reason. They survive what should kill them and fight when they should surrender. They believe in impossible things and somehow make them possible. Tellis looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the borders, keeping the peace. Human doctors worked in hospitals across 100 worlds. Human teachers taught in schools where children of all species learned together. But Ambassador Velis failed to understand one crucial truth. Tellis continued writing. Humans are dangerous only to those who threaten what they love. To everyone else, they are the most loyal friends, the most reliable allies, and the most compassionate helpers the galaxy has ever known. He saved the file and marked it for permanent archive. Species 7431 reclassification complete. New designation: Category Gold. Special note: Humanity. Handle with respect. They have earned it. Tellis closed his computer and looked at the small picture on his desk. It showed himself at graduation, standing between two human classmates who had become his best friends. The galaxy had once feared humanity. Now it celebrated them. And somewhere, in the quiet archives of history, the old Category Red file gathered dust, a reminder of a time when fear ruled the stars. Those days were gone forever. Humanity had risen, not as a menace, but as a hope. And the galaxy was better for it.